topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Connected Table Live. We're your hosts, Melanie Young and David Ransom, your insatiably curious culinary couple. We travel the world to bring you the people we meet, the places we visit, the wines we taste, and the foods we eat, all around the world to inspire you to step out inside your comfort zone and have a good time enjoying great food and great wine and beverages wherever you travel. You're listening on our YouTube channel, The Connected Table TV, and we ask you to share it so we can have more people like you find us and follow us, which you can also do on Instagram at The Connected Table. So this is just a day at the office, right? Behind us.
Just another day at the office.
Not really. We spent a lot of time just writing in front of our computers.
Interesting that the wine glasses are bigger than our heads, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a big glass of wine.
Well, we're talking about a big region today. Actually, we are taking you to a very big region that cuts practically all the way across Italy, Emilia-Romagna, which we have never visited and had the opportunity to do recently in the month of October 2025 to learn about specifically the wine Lambrusco.
Yeah.
How much did you know about Lambrusco before we went, David?
Well, it'd been on my radar for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know a tremendous amount about it or the region. I just knew where it came from and that the wines were sparkling, mostly red wines.
Mm-hmm.
And then earlier this year, we went to Italy and we stopped by the Lambrusco booths in the Emilia-Romagna section and got to know the wines. And I was flabbergasted at just what the variety was and how good they were, and that they were not my grandfather's Lambrusco.
Well, it's interesting. Italy was awesome. That was also our first time, and we made a point of going to the Emilia-Romagna exhibit because we wanted to learn about Lambrusco. And I think we've only had one Lambrusco producer on the show, Lini. Lini, which we met in a couple of years ago, but we had not been there. And you and I have been craving these kind of frizzante, sparkling wine, refreshing style wines because we live in a very hot area called Louisiana. And you want something that's lower in alcohol, fresh and frizzante to enjoy. So I knew some about Lambrusco because I'd studied it, but never been. I'd heard a lot about Emilia-Romagna because everybody calls it the breadbasket and heartland of Italy, but never been. And it's large. There's the Emilia part and the Romagna part. And most of the Lambrusco production zone is in the Emilia part. They make very nice still wines in Romagna, including the Emilia-Romagna, which is the first white DOCG grape.
Yeah,
it's
they
an
make a lot of
aromatic white.
Sangiovese over there as well.
Yeah, we had a few. We did because we didn't drink Lambrusco the whole time, but we'd made a strong effort to, and we got to taste many. And what's interesting about the photo behind us, we have to move our heads left and right, is that Lambrusco is it's one style, it's one wine with many styles. And that's really important because it comes in a spectrum of colors. As you could say, there's a very, very pale pink, to like bubblegum pink, to salmon pink, to light garnet, to the darker plum and blackberry colors with more tannins. So you've got this spectrum of colors, and you also have a range of dry to full throttle, fruity, fresh to amabile, which is semi-sweet. So you've got different styles.
Yeah.
And you have frizzante to spumante. But what they do have in common, one, they're sparkling wines, whether they're frizzante or spumante. Two, they're exclusively made in Emilia-Romagna. Three, they're made specifically from about 10 or 12 grapes, many called Lambrusco, but specific to the production zone, which we had to visit. We visited 6 producers, and they are all low in alcohol by volume, on average under 12%. So that's a commonality. After that, there's a style for everybody.
Yeah. A bunch of different grapes can be used, but kind of like in the Rhone Valley, where they say in Chateau Neuf de Pape, they can make the wine from 13 different grapes. They don't normally use all 13 to do so.
Right.
So there are 3 or 4 main grapes that go into making Lambrusco, and we're going to tackle that today.
So the first one is Lambrusco di Sorbara. And when we first tasted the Sorbaras at Italy, it was an aha moment.
Yeah, and Sorbara is the grape.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of specific to a region around Modena, which is where we based ourselves, actually. A beautiful city.
In a Sorbara production zone.
Yeah.
It's 100% Sorbara in the Sorbara production zone. It can be blended with a grape called Salamino in another part, because there's several production zones, but we're going to simplify it because that's what it's all about. So Lambrusco di Sorbara was really like a rosato, a rosé style of wine, drier, very high acidity, incredibly bright and crisp and refreshing on the palate. I got more violet notes when we tasted these wines, and strawberry and raspberry. How about you?
Yeah. And, I thought it was a delightful, dry, fresh, frizzante style of wine. But it also had a little bit of a good body to it. So I kind of was thinking to myself, this is a versatile wine, maybe the most versatile of the Lambruscos that we tried. And it really kind of fit all the spectrums on where you could have it with food. So it was a very nice wine to me.
Yeah.
And it was a real eye-opener as well, because I literally did not know that this existed before we tried it in April.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither. And just eye-opening and so refreshing. I mean, these are wines. What is interesting about all the wines, particularly the Lambrusco di Sorbara, is it can stand up to salty foods, fatty foods, tangy foods, every kind of food in between, from your snacks to your cheeses to your lighter pastas, like you would drink a rosé, a dry, sparkling rosé. That's really it is. But again, the colors can much like a rosé. The second category is one that many are more familiar with, which is Lambrusco di Grasparosa. It's the red Lambrusco, fruitier, a lot more fruit forward with blackberry and plum and dark cherry and floral notes, but more tannins and firmer acidity. It's darker in color also. And a bit, I hate the word grapier, but grapier, right?
So if you're looking past my left ear,
right,
that's the Grasparosa in the back, right back here.
And between David and I are Sorbara.
There's Sorbara in the middle, and then what's the one on the left?
I think that's a very pale Sorbara, because we were just so you know what that is behind us is when we went to Emilia-Romagna. The first thing we did is we did 36 wines tasted in 6 flights. So this was an example of one of the flights we tasted, which is really a great palate exercise for us. I think these wines, the Lambrusco di Grasparosa, can stand up to a lot of red meats, pork. The pork, which is everywhere in this region, would do well with either the Lambrusco di Sorbara or the Lambrusco di Grasparosa, depending on the preparation.
Right. Well, along with Lambrusco, Emilia-Romagna is also famous for producing prosciutto di Parma.
Right.
So pigs have a big home in the
which
area,
we'll touch on hopefully at the end. And also hamburgers, barbecue, all that juicy foods and juicy wines, right? I think that's kind of a way I felt when I tasted the Lambrusco di Grasparosa. Just incredibly refreshing. I happen to love sparkling red wines. I think they are just the best. The third major category, and then there's miscellaneous in between, is the Lambrusco amabile, which probably is what many people associate Lambrusco with, because it's a semi-sweet style of wine, not sweet, semi-sweet, and semi-dryish also. So you've got that hint of sweet with more residual sugar, but it could pair well with really spicy foods and tangy foods just as well. Or you could have it with a cantucci or a torta. They have like these light cakes over there, and it would be complimentary. But a very nice wine as well. And those are the three categories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's basically a Lambrusco for everyone. And we started our trip. So we were based in Modena, and we started our trip literally in the offices to get an overview, because this was a learning trip and we love those, by the Consortio Tutela Lambrusco. And we tasted 36 wines. They said, is that too many? And we were like, oh God, no, that's nothing compared to some of the places we go. It was very well done. And because these wines are, and we spit, of course, but because these wines are low in alcohol, you really don't feel it. They don't weigh you down in your palate either.
No, not at all.
I think it's like 8 to 12%.
Yeah. Low in alcohol, high in acidity.
Yeah.
Filled with fruit.
Mhm.
You know what I like about the acidity in these wines is that they can stand up to a lot of fat. They can stand up to salt. They can stand up to really intense flavors. Not that necessarily the cuisine of Modena is like that, but is spicy or anything like that. But it does. But there is, obviously there is a lot of fat there. They do use butter. It's not an olive oil producing region,
right?
So it's a cuisine of richness, and the wines stand up to that beautifully.
Before we talk about the producers, this may be a nice segue to talk about the food. So we base ourselves in Modena, which is located between Bologna, the major city, and Parma to the west, Prosciutto di Parma. And in between, there's a lot of pig farms and cattle farms and agriculture. It's a valley. It's the Po River. It's very fertile. And we saw a lot of fog in the morning. And then in the production area where Lambrusco is, there's the colline, the hills where they have a lot of elevation, and the grapes they love it there. They love that higher elevation. So Bologna means fat one. And it is the home of a major university, the University of Bologna. When we were there, it was a little busy. They're building a railway, so there's a lot of construction, but they have these porticos called tetto that are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And
they're all over the city.
All over the city. Yeah. It's great because when it rains, you stay dry.
The center part of the city.
Yeah. It's just wonderful. We only had a day, but I think we covered ground. Mm-hmm. So here's the foods and why they do so well with Lambrusco. The first is, as we said, the salumi, the prosciutto di Parma, which has got, that salty texture.
And also mortadella comes from there.
Mortadella. How would you describe mortadella for anyone who doesn't know what it is?
It's like a fragrant bologna
with little shards of lard,
little pieces of fat in them,
mm-hmm.
and then also the good high quality mortadella also has pistachios in it.
Yeah, and so these are local to Emilia-Romagna. Actually, a lot of salami is. There's a salami rosso, which is a smaller version. When you go out, you will be offered a huge salumi plate with beautiful slices of different kinds of salumi. And this is the time, you're at the source. But that's not all. Because even though I don't eat meat, what I do love is Parmigiano Reggiano, which is the greatest cheese ever in Italy. And it's made in Emilia-Romagna, Parma. And you see wheels and wheels of it when you go to the markets. And they serve it for breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can take a special knife and cut it, chunk it, and drizzle the next big product, aceto balsamic vinegar de Modena, balsamic vinegar de Modena on it. And you drizzle it on. It's just heaven. You can also grate it over all the wonderful, rich, buttery pastas and ragu sauces. So Parmigiano Reggiano, if I have one regret, is that we didn't bring back vacuum wrap pieces of Parmigiano Reggiano.
Yeah, well, we couldn't bring back everything. We did bring back some aceto balsamico, though, which is balsamic vinegar. And let's say that this is not the balsamic vinegar you buy at the grocery store.
No way.
It's an art form, and it's a legacy for this region, especially around Modena, to create these vinegars. And they go through there's a lot of process to it. There's a lot of aging to it. We actually tasted one that was 50 years old.
Yeah.
And and they kind of do it by generation, the families that make these. It is made in a more commercial way as well. But we actually were at one of the wineries, and they had a balsamic vinegar building on their property, and they were making real balsamic. And there was one row of barrels that it goes through a process of going from barrel to barrel to barrel as it ages, and gives up its angel share and concentrates itself down. And there was one that was 65 years old. And we were tasting our host's mother's balsamic vinegar, which was 55 years old.
Yeah, these are very special. In fact, Aceto Balsamic Tradizionale di Modena is recognized by both the Italian government and the European Union as a DOP, denomination of protected origin, denomination origin controllata. This is artisan vinegar made from crushed unfermented grapes. They're boiled down to a thick syrup and left to ferment and condense. And as David said, they're put in different barrels. Balsam refers to the wood, because there are different types of wood used, much like wine, to ferment, to age, these vinegars, and they take on the characteristic of the wood, much like you do with American oak versus French oak, acacia, etc. And that creates those incredible nuanced flavors. This, as you said, is not what you buy at the supermarket and what you should buy when you go to Modena, because you get obviously the best quality and value to bring home.
Yeah.
And it is versatile. So we talked about balsamic vinegar over a drizzled, because you drizzle it over Parmigiano Reggiano, but you can also drizzle it over vanilla ice cream, which we did for a dinner party, and it was amazing. Or yogurt, or fruit, strawberries. Yeah. This is drizzle vinegar, and a delicacy. The other thing that is important is this is bolognese. So you're going to have a lot of ragouts, meat sauces, lasagna. Yeah. Is the dish. You had several lasagnas.
I had two.
Well, that's more than me.
Well, that's true.
If you love lasagna, you've got to have it in Bologna or Modena or in Emilia-Romagna. And it's, the bolognese sauce ragu is made with different cuts of meat. There's a whole process to it, and definitely something to try. But likewise, another popular dish that we both had was the tortellini ambrodo, which is the little tortellini stuffed with either pork or chicken and served in a chicken broth. It's on almost every menu. And for me, the non-meat eater, my personal favorite was the cappellicci di zucca, cappellicci means big hats. And these are the big hat, like bigger tortellini stuffed with squash, pumpkin, Swiss chard. It's just delicious. And again, the sauce is butter, which kind of threw me because I'm an olive oil girl, so I wasn't used to the buttery richness. But the noodles are made with egg. So that's a big distinction from this area. The other dish that I liked is called erbazzone. It's an herb pie, much like a spanakopita, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's filled with Swiss chard. I'm hoping to learn how to make it. And then the one thing I want to mention that we didn't know what it was, and I had to research it, was squacquerone, which is like burrata cheese, but almost creamier and spreadable and tangier. That, again, they were serving it at our hotel for breakfast, and it's really good in piadina, which is the handheld sandwiches they make in this area. I mean, it was really the tip of the iceberg in terms of dining. We had a nice, good schedule and tried a lot of restaurants in Modena, and they were all good. And then we had we had meals at some of the wineries, and of course, a lot of salumi. It is a terrific. And what does it all go with? Lambrusco.
Yes, it does.
So that's just a quick food thing. And of course, if you're thinking, what about non-Italian food? Fried chicken, particularly Nashville, hot fried chicken, Cajun, Asian, spicy food, but salty food, and also fatty food because it stands up to those buttery noodles. So very versatile. Why don't we talk about we saw 6 producers, of which I think all but one had distribution in the United States.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about some of those briefly? And I know you've got your notes up on the screen, so that's great. Your tasting notes, David.
Well, let's just kind of go down the list from day 1 to day 3. How's that?
Okay.
The first one would be Bellei, Bellei and Company, Francesca Bellei. It's a winery that was actually founded in 1920, but it's owned by a different family now, and who also makes wine in Franciacorta, which we talked about earlier in the year after visiting that region. Both sparkling wine production regions, and both wineries makes different sparkling wines. And this is It has been in the U.S. It's not right now, but they're in negotiation to be back in the U.S. right in the coming months. But very nice, 4th generation. They made their wines mostly in the metodo classico way. Okay, so this is fermented, then re-fermented in the bottle to capture the bubbles, and as opposed to most Lambruscos, which are made in the Charmat method.
Right. With secondary fermentation. That's another factor about Lambrusco, one wine, many styles, because you could be made in the Charmat, which is the majority, and that's how Prosecco is made. Metodo Classico, which is how champagne is made with secondary fermentation bottle, and then Ancestral. And actually, Belay made some nice Ancestral wines as well.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And this is it's in the Sorbara region, so a lot of their Lambruscos are Lambrusco di Sorbara.
Right.
But we had a very interesting wine there made from a grape called Spergola, which was actually our first experience with tasting Spergola when we got there, and it was actually it's a white grape native to the Emilia region,
right?
And there's only 140 hectares. A hectare is 2.5 acres planted of this grape, period. So it's not highly cultivated, but it's a delightful dry white wine.
Kind of nutty, a little almond character, definitely. Like the nutty and a bit bitter in a positive way.
Yeah.
So very brut, and it was a sparkling wine. I think it was it a Metodo Classico? Yes. The Spergola. We had it a couple of times. That was our first. We both kind of had an aha moment tasting it.
Yeah.
And then they also do Pignoletto, which is known as Crocchetto Gentile. It's named after a pine cone because of the tight clusters.
Yeah.
And really nice producer. I hope they get distribution in the United States.
Yeah.
And again, they have roots in Franciacorta, but they maintained the Belay name out of respect.
And they were doing some interesting things. They were doing a method of Ancestral, which is kind of like a pet nat, or colfondo, as they call it up in Prosecco land. And then they also did a Lambrusco di Sorbara in amphora, which gave it a little bit of an earthy character and very interesting. They only produced 800 bottles of it, so it wasn't too much.
Yeah.
However, it was a very nice wine and a good exercise in how versatile the winemaking is in this region.
Again, one wine, many styles.
Yeah.
Who do we have next?
Well, the next one is one of our favorites, and they all were because we had such a great time. But the next one is Paltrinieri, and this is where we actually went to the Balsameria,
right,
and tasted the family's 55-year-old balsamic vinegars.
Family owned.
It's family owned.
Since 1926.
Again, 4th generation. Family owned. We really enjoyed our time here. We had a very thorough tour,
right,
and a lovely tasting, and then we also got to tour the balsamic production, the house where all the barrels are, and then also taste some of their 55-year-old balsamic, which they sell for 90 euros a bottle, by the way, and the bottle's about 3 ounces.
Yeah, we didn't buy that one.
So if you think wine's expensive,
so
try buying an aged bottle of balsamic vinegar.
So what's interesting about these wineries, it seems like half of them were started between 1925 and 1926.
Yeah.
So Nancy Drew here went and researched what was going on in Italy at the time.
Well, it's between wars.
It was between wars, and actually fascism was on the rise. So these founders were all visionaries because they all were probably just scraping by as farmers and had this vision too. But you think about what was the vision to say, we're going to create these special sparkling wines at this time when there was no bottling. It was, and you have to have bottles to make sparkling wine. So it's really kind of interesting. Achille Paltrinieri is the founder. We met the 4th generation Alberto Paltrinieri and his daughter Cecilia. I thought she did a great presentation on understanding Lambrusco.
She did an amazing presentation.
Yeah.
And well worth visiting that winery. And they do have visitors that come.
Yeah. Reservations necessary for everybody.
They make a bunch of different wines. Interestingly, all the wines that they make are vintage dated. So there's no non-vintage Lambrusco at this particular winery, although there is at some others that we visited. They also make a couple outside the realm of Lambrusco. They made a beautiful sparkling wine called Bianco dell'Emilia, which was a sparkling wine that was made of 50% Trebbiano di Modena and then also 50% Sorbara, which is the grape that they make their Lambrusco with. And it was really, really nice. It had a lot of green apple and bright fruit to it. But the Trebbiano di Modena was a first for us as well. It's one of the grapes in the Trebbiano family, obviously, which is grown widely all over central Italy. And but this was the first time we'd had that.
And it takes its name based on where it's grown, kind of like the Lambrusco.
And also
grapes.
that Trebbiano is what they make the balsamic vinegar with.
Right. Right. Anything else in that? I'm looking at his. He does such nice notes.
We did. We also tasted a really nice. Well, they name their wines, so that was one of the nice things that I enjoyed about this winery as well. We tasted one that was called Piria, Piria, which is a Lambrusco de Sorbara DOC, and it was 70% Sorbara and 30% one of the other grapes called Salamino, which is what another grape that they make Lambrusco with. So that was a blend, and that was kind of their rosé color Lambrusco.
Yeah, Salamino they plant in the vineyards with Sorbara because they kind of help support each other.
Well, the interesting thing that we learned about the Sorbara grape while we were there is that it doesn't pollinate itself.
Right. So
it needs another grape to help it pollinate every year, which is why they co-plant these vines in a 2-to-1 ratio, two of Sorbara, one of Salamino with each other, so that they can get the Salamino to help pollinate the Sorbara.
Right.
Makes a great wine, but it can't do it on its own.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting.
Very interesting.
This is also where they have the Radici, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
That is one of their, it's a Metodo Classico wine, unfiltered, and it is capped. So it's got the crown cap. It looks much like an Ancestral, but it's Metodo Classico. Yeah. And it's a big seller. It's one of their
delightful wine. They really made some beautiful wines.
Yeah, very nice wines. And they are imported by Polaner Selections in the United States. So they have I was on the Polaner website. They have a fairly good representation here.
Yeah, they made some really nice wines. We tasted 8 of their wines, and which is a pretty good number of different wines for a winery to make. Yeah, especially if you're making it all sparkling. It was a beautiful winery, lovely place. The wines were great, and I was really thrilled to be able to visit them.
Yeah, that was a very informative, and the balsamic vinegar was just a bonus.
I know, lots of fun. So the next place that we went to was kind of across the valley, and a little bit up in the hills in an area called Castelvetro, which is a beautiful medieval town.
Yes.
On the other side of the valley, and this was called Tenuta Galvana Superiore, and it was located just outside of Castelvetro, where we actually had lunch at a beautiful restaurant.
Wonderful restaurant
on a hill in town overlooking the valley. It was really quite pretty.
Probably one of the best lunches we had.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Just incredible.
And this region is more known for growing the Grasparosa grape.
Right.
So the wines that we had there were focused on that. Although there was
hilly, very hilly area.
And it's up on the hill. Whereas Paltrinieri and Bellet were both on the flat. They're actually right next to each other, those two wineries. So they were on the flatlands in the valley and outside of Modena. And then the Castelvetro region is a hillier area. So you're getting up into the hills.
You get a limestone clay and also some chalk up there. What's interesting about the flatlands, we drove through some incredibly thick fog. So it's a very foggy, low-level area.
At that time of year,
yeah. That time of the year. That was founded in 1974, Tenuta Galvana by Marini Leonelli and Donini Bruna. And their son, Paolo Leonelli, is now in charge. He's a certified organic winery, and everything is hand harvested.
And they have some very old vines on the property as well. So most wineries tend to rip out and replant in the 30 to 40 year range. They have some wines. They have some vines dating back to the early 1970s. On this,
which is hard to believe that's
this
old.
Property. It's old for a grape.
I know it's old. Yeah. It's just, what were you doing in 1974?
I don't know. I was 10. So
zip my lip.
The Grasparosa, which is a very even ripener, which is good for the winery, right?
Yeah.
Makes some very nice wines. So these are the red Lambruscos. Would you see that over my left shoulder in the background? Yeah. So that's a Grasparosa.
So it's really a credible range. I don't want to move too far, but over here is, pale to red to rosy, just unbelievable.
So a lot of their wines were, they made wines in different ways as well. So they made Charmat method, they made Metodo Classico method,
And ancestral.
and Ancestral method. One wine that they made, which I thought was interesting, and this was our first taste of this grape, Pignoletto,
Right.
was a Charmat wine, and it was a white grape, white sparkling Lambrusco style wine called La Guardia, and really lovely.
And as I said, Pignoletto refers to the pine cone, thick, tightly clustered grapes that you'll find. And it was a brut, another nutty, crisp wine.
Yeah, they actually made a couple of
floral.
different wines with Pignoletto as well, and then they also did some that was blending that with Grasparosa.
I love discovering the grapes in this area. It was just an incredible experience because these are wines and grapes you only get here, and that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, a couple of others that they made were Lambrusco dell'Emilia, which was a method ancestral, again Grasparosa, so it was red, and then Ca Imperatore, which was a Lambrusco DOC Grasparosa as well, and that was interestingly they made it was Charmat method, but they put a little bit of must into it to give it some extra sweetness, and then when they pressed it off, that remained in the wine. It was delicious.
It's these are wines that there's basic rules you follow, and then a lot of diversion and of diversity and variety in terms of how you can make them, which is so unlike many other regions where you have to follow either Metodo Classico or like Prosecco is Charmat, and Franciacorta is Metodo Classico, and certain grapes. And here there's a diversity of grapes, diversity of styles, and it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So who was next?
Well, so then that was the last one for that day.
That day.
And
it was a manageable trip, 2 to 3 wineries a day, maybe two.
So the next morning after a wonderful dinner, we headed to the region of Reggio Emilia, which is a third production area, which focuses mostly on Grasparosa production, so red Lambruscos. And this is the area of Scandiano, which is in Reggio Emilia. And we went to visit the producer Bertolani. And we met with Andrea Bertolani, who was 4th generation, great guy.
Founded in 1925,
founded
100 years old by Alfredo Bertolani.
Yeah.
And they're doing a big centennial. I think this was like 3 or somewhere 1926 Peltrinary. They were either 1925 or 1926. I was like, what was going on then?
What was going on? Well,
this is a great tour.
This was a morning tasting, so it was right after coffee. But the wines were fabulous. We had a great time, and Andrea, so we went into the tasting room, and there on the wall was a picture from New Orleans Jazz Fest. Yeah. So it made us feel right at home. He's a musician, and on the side, and loves playing he plays in a Bruce Springsteen band, cover band over in Italy. Amazing. And he's toured the world with this band. And he loves music, and he's been to Jazz Fest, and he has a Jazz Fest poster on his wall.
And New Orleans is one of the biggest markets for Bertolani, we found out through Vinilla. The importer is Regal Wines in New York, but they have a very strong distribution here. This is a hillier area, so compared to the more humid plains with that thick morning fog, you've got the cooling breezes coming through and natural protection through the hills, the natural cooling system. Again, clay, chalk, and it is in the soils, some sand. I thought these tended to be fuller bodied, had more sapidity to them. And they also focus a lot on Spergola as well.
They do. Spergola we really like that grape.
Yeah, very savory. Yeah. And I love savory wines and crunchy savory wines. Love and
so they did a lot of Grasparosa, but they also did a bunch of Spergola. Yeah. The first one that we tried was called Spergolino.
Yeah.
And it was 100% Spergola from the Colli di Scandiano di Canosa DOC.
It's a mouthful, but
which is a mouthful.
You got it.
But and it was a lovely white Lambrusco style.
That was one of my favorites.
Just delicious. And then they also made a Metodo Classico Spergola, and these are all 100% Spergola, by the way. This was a vintage dated one, which was the Spergola Metodo Classico Millesimato 2021, so the year 2021, and it spends 4 years on the lease, so it's just bottled this year.
Yeah, which was interesting because technically you drink Lambrusco once we asked, like within the first 2 years
First
of
couple
bottling.
of years, yeah.
We tasted some that were older, some that were a lot older that had lost their oomph. But this one was very nice.
Yeah, and I very much enjoyed
and,
that one.
And the lees stirring really softens them up and adds this amazing mouthfeel.
Yeah.
So it's really terrific.
And then they also make a rosé. We tried about 5 or 6. So they also make a beautiful rosé, Vino Spumante Lambrusco Rosato. This is called a secco, which means it's got a little bit of sugar in it.
Right.
There. And this was a blend of the Salamino grape and then also another one. This is a new one for us at this point, Marani, Marani. And Marani is obviously a grape that they grow in that region and one of the approved grapes to make Lambrusco with. So it's in the blend. And we had a couple of wines made with Marani on this trip.
Yeah, because I think it's either 10 or 12 approved grapes.
Yeah. So and then we had their anniversary Lambrusco, which was called Cento 100. And it was a 2023 Spumante Metodo Classico, and it was the commemorative bottling, and that was for the most part Salamino,
which was interesting.
Yeah,
because that's usually a blended grape, so that was unusual. What were your impressions of that?
Oh, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
we actually got it when we went out to lunch on our own.
I think we have brought it back.
We did.
We do. We have a bottle here. We don't bring a lot of bottles back because of space, so we always save room for olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and I wish cheese, but we bring back what we can. So we do have that one, and they were so proud of. They're so excited about the centennial. They're so proud of this. It's just wonderful.
And then we also had what I think is their best seller, which was the Lambrusco Oro, which is a Reggiano duck. So they are in the Regia Emilia region. So this is a Reggiano DOC Lambrusco.
100%, right?
It's a blend of Salamino and another grape called Malbo Gentile.
Oh, okay. Another grape.
And this is got a touch of sweetness to it. It's crisp. It's light. It is red. It's good perfume notes and wonderful red fruit, some floral notes. And then it also has that little bit of sapidity and salinity at the end, which I just loved it. And we actually had that on our own a couple of times when we were out to lunch.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And so that was the best-selling
Bertolani.
Lambrusco from Bertolani.
Alfredo Bertolani.
Yeah. And Andrea is the 4th generation.
Yeah. And, we got to go to a local store and pick some up here.
The Springsteen.
Yeah. Springsteen fan.
Springsteen guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the next one we went to was a cantina. So this was a cooperative winery with 180 growers that were members of the winery. And
started by 5 in 1938.
Yep. Started by 5 almost 100 years ago. And now they've grown to 180 growers. It's called Cantina Puglianello.
I'll let you say that.
We had a lovely tasting, visit, tour, and lunch there as well.
Because you can stop in and buy, all your salumi and cheeses. It's a store as well as a cooperativa. And I always like to compare cooperativas to like the WeWorks.
That's so true.
And shared office space. It's about, helping smaller independent producers who don't necessarily want to invest in a lot of equipment to come together and share resources to make their wines. Also, which was nice about this cooperativa, Cantina Puglianello, is they have these amazing murals. They're so proud of them by the artist Simone Ferrarini that depict historical figures in working in wine, and a woman, Matilda, the woman Matilda, who was a wealthy patron who was beloved in the region for helping the locals and was so important that the Pope selected her to be the benevolent person to make sure everybody was doing well in the region. So they have a wine named after her.
It's called Rosa Matilda.
That's right, Rosa Matilda.
And it's a Spumante Lambrusco Monterico, which is a grape variety, another grape variety. Monterico, Montericco. So
that's an important one.
Basically, rich mountain.
Yeah, because the mountains make a difference.
Monterico, yeah. So this is in a hillier area as well. It's not too far from Bertolani, so we were kind of in that area of Reggio Emilia, and it's a very well-run, small cooperative, and it's got a great reputation and make some very nice wines.
Well, they underscored its quality over quantity, because a
And
lot of people think cooperativas are just big producers. No, it's quality over quantity.
I think this is the time where we need to bring up is that cooperatives are very important to Lambrusco production overall.
Yes.
So there's not a tremendous amount of private family-run wineries in the region. A lot of it's small grape production plots. So they're taking their grapes to be made at cooperatives and leaving the winemaking up to somebody else, and then bringing, and then either bottling under a private label or just letting the cooperative bottle it under the labels that they want to.
So making sparkling wine is expensive.
It is.
Because it's a much more laborious process. Because you've got the two fermentations and more equipment and labor costs, particularly if you're doing metodo classico, because you've got the riddling and everything. So the cooperatives are very important. We only went to one, but there are many more in the region.
Yeah, and I like their wines. They made some very nice wines. They have some great bottles under their belt. Monterico Rosa Matilda. Was one that was a delicious wine. Another one was Amicord.
Oh yes,
was the next one, which was kind of a red rosso style Lambrusco made from Monterico again, and then the L'Incontro Lambrusco Spumante, which was also another lovely wine that they make.
Which coincidentally
is the wine that comes to the United States under the Aveline label, which is Cameron Diaz's wine.
Right. So we had Cameron Diaz. They had a picture of Cameron Diaz, so it's made that way. So and we were told that she personally came and selected it and is very hands-on. They underscored that. Yeah,
she's actually really kind of dived into the wine world to really try to be a part of the wine that she puts her name on.
Well, she likes wine, and then wisely, as her acting career was like, she wisely looked into doing something else to focus on as a business, and she settled on this, and they love the partnership. They're very proud of it.
Yeah. And then they also make a couple others. One is the Borgoletta Reggiano DOC Lambrusco, which was a sweet style Lambrusco, and another beautiful wine. It's fairly sweet, definitely got some spiciness to it, and just a delicious wine. Thinking about what you want to have it with, desserts, cheeses,
tangy cheeses, but also it would stand up. I always sometimes like to have sweet and salty together as a combo, depending on what the salty is.
But it wasn't their most sweet. It was kind of like a semi-secco, as we like to say.
Which is why it's a bit more versatile.
Then there was the Emilia Rosso Amabile. Amabile means lovable in Italian. And that is traditionally the sweet style of Lambrusco. That's the name for the sweeter Lambruscos that are made in the region. And those are definitely have some residual sugar in them.
So if you like that style, and as an example, if you like the sweeter Moscato wines or Braccato d'Acqua, which is a Piemonte red sweeter wine, you're going to like this style. But again, to underscore, there is a wine for every palate and cuisine in Lambrusco. So again, it's like the blind man and the elephant. Don't just have the amabile go, oh, they're all like that. Because
I think the versatility of Lambrusco is because the wines are made so in so many different ways.
Exactly.
And you're not just talking about acid, you're also talking about tannin, because a lot of the production is from red grapes.
Exactly.
So there's that little tannic backbone in Lambrusco that you don't get in Prosecco, and you don't get in Limoux and things like that. They don't in France. You don't get that out of sparkling white grapes.
Well, common question is, what's the difference between Prosecco and Lambrusco? And I think you just nailed it. First of all, Prosecco, besides being made in a very different projection zone further north of Venetia by the Glera grape, which has very specific organoleptic qualities as well, and has that green apple, you talk about the tannin structure of the Lambruscos is much different. They're completely different wines. The only thing I think they have in common is they're from Italy, and they're sparkling, but that's about it. But that is a very common question when I did a little research.
Yeah. So one last winery that we went to,
which is
again, we had so much fun with these folks, was Lombardini.
Kind of an urban winery.
Yeah, and it's actually it's in the middle of a town. So
Novara.
drive up a long driveway and past a lot of vineyards to get to this place. You basically drive through town, stop at a stoplight, make a right, and there it is.
It's in an old cinema.
Yeah. And very nice. Again, 100-year-old winery. They were founded in 1925, and it's in the town of Novellara, Novellara, and that's also in the area of Emilia. So it's about 45 minutes from Modena. And we had a lovely trip with them, and it's run by three sisters and their father. But we didn't meet the father. We did meet the
Marco.
three sisters. We met them. Chiara, Cecilia, and Virginie are the three sisters that run it, and they all have a little piece of what they do.
And they were so excited to meet us.
Excited to meet us, and we had such a great time with them and really enjoyed them. And they are imported into the U.S. by Vignoli Selections, Vignoli, which is our friend Dino Tentawi.
Right.
And
terrific wines.
Really, really nice wines. And they actually had one of their wines was the top sparkling wine in the world at the World Sparkling Wine Competition last year.
And it has the most unusual bottle.
Yeah.
It's not available in the United States because the bottle has such a thin, long neck.
The wine we're talking about is called Il Campagnone.
Just phenomenal.
And it's a frizzante, very light pétillant style red Lambrusco with just a touch of sweetness to it. And it was just a fabulous wine. But they don't import it to the US because it's not wire capped cork. So they're afraid of what will happen to the corks if they all pop out while they're in
Which is
transit.
why we didn't bring one back in our suitcase.
Correct.
So if you go, make
You
sure
gotta
to
get it
look
over
for
there.
this wine, Il Campagnone, because you can't get it and you can't transport it so well.
It's really good.
But we did bring back some other bottles.
We did.
So let's talk about those.
So they made a beautiful spurgola.
Oh, gorgeous. It was the
And-
color of ripe strawberries, and they served it to us with ripe strawberries.
Yeah, and this is a good time to talk about long Charmat as well, because this was made in the
Good
long
point.
Charmat method, right? So most Charmat method is it's a couple of months in the tank, getting the bubbles released into the wine. This is much longer than that, 6 to 7 months.
So
So
that's
it spends
unusual.
a lot more time on the lees.
Yeah, and you get that, and as a result, you get this incredible soft quality, this amazing umami. Oh, I love that wine, and it was so beautiful to look at. Much less, and when you pour it, that little mousse that comes out, the fizz, or like
just
like
delightful.
when you pour a beer, you just love that fizz. I call it
Yeah. So spurgola, the color off of Melanie's right shoulder.
right there. Yeah,
Right
very
there.
similar. No, it's more. Theirs was like strawberry pink.
So, and then they also make a sorbara. So
Oh.
there's a lot of cross pollination in Lambrusco, right? They do make a Lambrusco de Sorbara.
Oh, that's what I'm
was their,
referring to.
which
Sorry,
was
the
their
strawberry
rosé,
pink.
which was their rosé
Mhm.
style Lambrusco.
That's what
Spurgola
I'm
was
referring
white.
to. The spurgola. Forget that. Okay.
The Lambrusco de Sorbara, again, lovely wine, and that is imported to the United States.
And that's the one they served with the strawberries. It
Yeah.
was pink. The spurgola was more like the one over there. To mine.
And then we have the Il Campagnone,
That was voted the top sparkling.
and that's
Red.
a blend of Salamino and Marani.
Mhm.
And then they also have the Il Signor Campagnone, which is a lovely wine. This is a much bigger bubbles, more spumante style than frizzante style.
Mhm.
That's why they differentiate the two. They're kind of close to each other in winemaking, but the Il Campagnone and the Il Signor Campagnone are two very different wines.
Very different wines.
Yeah.
Both terrific. And that one is 80% Salamino, 20% Sorbara. So
Yeah.
very, Salamino was another new grape for us.
Mhm.
And this is one that one of the blends where it dominated.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. And then they made a brut, and then they also made it on amabile as well.
Yeah,
which
and
was
they
very nice.
Paired them with different dishes. Again, starting with the spurgola and all the way up to some sweets. It was a very nice, they had a beautiful tasting room. What was
Yeah,
the
they have a-
centerpiece was this incredible Murano glass, Venetian glass chandelier that they said their mother designed with the designer and had little grape clusters hanging
Yeah,
out.
it was beautiful. The room was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the family was so nice.
They were
We actually spent a lot of time with them.
so excited to
Yeah.
see us. It was like I felt like we were their first visitors. They were just so excited. They couldn't do enough, and they wanted us to take them all their wine, but we were like, no, we can't. But we can actually go to Dino and say, Dino, to Towie.
We can go back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really wonderful people.
And those were the wineries.
Yeah, those were the
Yeah.
wineries, all family owned except
Yeah.
for the Cooperativa Brunello. But again, family owned. Families coming together 180 to create their wines. With all of these, they're available to visit by appointment. We based in what was the name of the hotel we stayed at? The Hotel Phi Canal Grande, which is wonderful because it was close to everything. And just hire a driver and just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the wines were just lovely.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
I mean, we're definitely going to put it on our shopping list because here in hot New Orleans, where it's hot or hotter, those are the two temperatures, or hot and humid and hot and less humid, sort of. These wines drew really well, particularly with all that wonderful, rich, buttery, spicy Creole Cajun fare.
And I was just amazed that you could drink a Lambrusco with, for all intents and purposes, like a crudo, light, very fresh flavors, and then also have it with a bolognese sauce,
a ragu, or a pork dish,
or a meat lasagna.
Yeah,
the wines are so versatile.
Yeah,
and there's that acidity, and then there's also that little bit of tannin in the red ones,
yeah,
which just really drive the wines.
And you just get such incredible flavor. And then again, you're realizing you're not drinking a 15% ABV red wine. You're drinking something that's
11.5 to 12 at the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Sessionable.
These are sessionable. Vivacious, versatile, and sessionable.
Exactly. Anyway.
Well, I can't wait to go back. We want to thank the Consortio Tutto Lambrusco for inviting us and organizing a very informative tour. We came to learn so we could share with all of you. We are really excited about what we experienced and can't wait to go back. We hope you'll put Lambrusco on your shopping list, but also on your travel list because it's a great place to travel. And of course, Bologna is the center of all great cuisine. And everybody I said, we're going to be in Bologna. They're like, oh, let me give you the list. We were there for one day. So
the list was short.
It was short, but take your time when you travel because it's well worth spending time and immersing yourself in this incredible region that doesn't get as many travelers necessarily as like Florence and Rome.
Yeah.
So
beautiful area.
Beautiful area. So you've been listening to another travel edition of the Connected Table Live, where we take you to where we have been to eat and drink and hopefully inspire you to make your travel plans to visit where we've been, because that's what we enjoy sharing with you. So stay connected. Follow us at The Connected Table on Instagram. Watch us on the Connected Table TV on YouTube, and listen to all of our shows anytime on demand on more than 65 podcast channels. We'll check in again, and always stay insatiably curious.